Hello. Today I will be teaching you how to subtract out baseline data from an Excel file. The baseline is the initial data that's collected before the experiment begins. In this case, the baseline is the flat portion of the plot, the first 27 minutes of data. The reason you want to subtract out the baseline is so you can better compare two data sets. For example, this plot displays VOC emission time series for a propane stove, the blue line, and a white gas stove, the orange line. If you compare the peaks on this plot, it looks like they're approximately the same. However, for a better comparison, baseline data should be subtracted out. In order to figure out the average baseline values for each curve, we have to take the average value of the flat series of the plot. To do this, we'll set up a formula in Excel to calculate the average. In a new cell, type equals the word average, an open parenthesis, then for the propane data, select the first 27 data points, like so. Close your parentheses and hit enter. As you can see, the average is a little over 400, which makes sense if you look at the propane curve on the plot. Now, let's do the same thing for the VOC curve. Again, in a new cell, type equals average, open parentheses, select by clicking and dragging the first 27 data points, close your parentheses and hit enter. This average baseline is a little over 1,000, which again makes sense looking at the orange line on the plot. Now we want to subtract these average baseline values from the entire data series. Let's start with the propane data. Let's set up a new column called VOC propane minus baseline. Let's set up a new formula by typing in equals. We'll select the first VOC propane value, type minus, click on the propane average baseline value we just calculated, hit F4 on your computers, which will make dollar signs appear, which just mean that you'll always be referencing that value. Now hit enter, and this is your new VOC propane value with the baseline subtracted out. To apply this to all other data points in the series, click on that value and scroll over to the small green square on the right-hand corner. Double-click that green square and it'll apply the same formula to all data points. Don't worry that some of your values might be negative. Now let's do the same thing for the VOC white gas emissions. Let's call this one VOC white gas minus baseline. Again, let's set up a formula equals the first white gas value minus the average white gas baseline, hit the F4 button, and hit enter. Again, let's apply it to all of those by double-clicking on that little square. There we go. Now we have two new data series with the baseline subtracted out, but we want to plot them. To do this, click on the propane curve in the plot. This will select your data points and highlight the time in purple and the propane data in blue. We want to select the propane data with the baseline subtracted. So move your cursor over to the very edge of the blue line until it becomes bold. Then click and drag that column over to your VOC propane minus baseline column. Let's do the same thing for white gas. Click on that orange curve, drag the blue column all the way over to VOC white gas minus baseline. Now, if you look at the plot, both curves are shifted down, so they're starting at VOC emissions of approximately 0. Now, if you compare the two time series, it becomes obvious that the VOC emissions for the white gas stove, the orange line, are much higher than the peak VOC emissions for the propane stove. We wouldn't have been able to figure this out without subtracting out the baseline data. Thank you for watching my screencast and good luck with your pod project.